5-minute stories of Pooh Bear from Disney. Narrated by Katie. Be patient, Pooh. One morning, Winnie the Pooh woke up thinking about cake, presents, and balloons. It's not every day that a bear wakes up thinking of those things. But this day was Pooh's birthday, and his friends were throwing him a party.
A birthday party? For me?
Pooh thought excitedly.
I can't wait.
He leapt out of bed and looked at his clock.
Is it time for my birthday party yet?
He asked. The clock's little hand pointed at the 8 and the big hand pointed at the 12.
Breakfast time,
thought Pooh.
That's always a good time.
He went to the kitchen and pulled out 3 pots of honey.
By the time I finish these, it'll be almost time for my party,
he said. But when he licked the last drop of honey from the bottom of his 3rd pot, it still wasn't time for his party. Next, Pooh did some exercises in his bedroom. Once he had finished a round of them, he did the exercises again. Once that was done, it still wasn't time for his party.
I better go to Rabbit's house to see how the party is coming along,
Pooh said to himself as he hurried to his friend's house. When Pooh arrived at Rabbit's, he knocked loudly on his friend's door.
How's the party coming? Pooh asked.
Everything is fine, Rabbit said as he opened the door. The party will be ready at dinner time.
Can I see my cake?
Pooh said. He tried to look around Rabbit. Not yet, Rabbit said, blocking Pooh's view. You have to wait until dinner time. Pooh sighed. It wasn't near any dinner time yet, and the morning had been longer than any morning he could remember. He sat down on his favorite rock near the stream. He watched the bubbling water racing past.
The water must be rushing to a birthday party,
Pooh said.
Maybe having a little company would help pass the time,
Pooh thought. He knocked at Piglet's door, and he could hear the sound of paper rustling.
Are you wrapping my present, Piglet?
Pooh asked. Don't come in yet, Piglet cried. He finished tying a purple ribbon around Pooh's present and hid it under the closet. In the closet. You can come in now, he called to Pooh.
Can I see my present, Piglet? What do you think we'll do at the party, Piglet? Do you think Rabbit will put pink roses on my cake? How much longer do you think it will be, Piglet?
Said Pooh breathlessly. He settled in Piglet's comfy chair.
It's nice to have company to talk to about all these things,
Pooh said.
It helps pass the time in a friendly way, doesn't it?
Piglet was trying to decide which question to answer first when Tigger and Roo knocked at the door.
Lunchtime!
Tigger cried as he and Roo bounced in. Piglet looked at his clock. The big hand and the little hand were both pointing at 12.
"Lunchtime?"
said Pooh, thoughtfully.
"That's a lot closer to dinner time than breakfast time, isn't it?" "It's right now," said Tigger impatiently. "Lunchtime is one of my favorite times of the day,"
said Pooh. He helped Piglet, Tigger, and Roo set the table. As Pooh licked his last pot of honey dry, clean actually, he sighed happily. "This almost is like a party right now." "Oh no!" cried Tigger. "A party has streamers and noisemakers and fancy hats and ice cream and—" Pooh thought about streamers and noisemakers and fancy hats and ice cream and cake and presents and balloons.
"It's almost time for the party?"
he asked. "Oh, dear, I hope not," Piglet said. "I promised to help Rabbit decorate."
"Me too," said Tigger.
"Me too," added Roo. Piglet, Tigger, and Roo hurried off to Rabbit's house. While Pooh waited, he decided to wash Piglet's lunch dishes. But
"By the time I finish these, it will be time for my party,"
he thought. But when he had dried the last drop of water from the last dish, it still wasn't time for his party.
"Waiting is hard," sighed Pooh. "Maybe I should ask Christopher Robin if he knows anything about it."
When Pooh arrived at Christopher Robin's house, he asked his friend his question.
"Why does waiting take so long for a party to happen?"
"It seems long, Pooh," said Christopher Robin. "When you have to wait, the best thing to do is what you like to do."
"What do bears like to do?"
asked Pooh, hoping Christopher Robin could remind him. "Well, I'm reading this great story about a pirate bear who's looking for buried treasure," Christopher Robin said. "Would you like to read it with me?"
"Yes, please,"
Pooh said happily. The two friends snuggled together under a shady tree, and Christopher Robin began to read. Pooh forgot all about cake and presents and balloons. He closed his eyes and saw tall ships, rolling waves, and buried treasure. They were almost to the end when Christopher Robin checked his watch. The little hand pointed at the 5, and the big hand pointed at the 12. "Dinner time," he said to Pooh.
"You mean it's time for my party already?"
Pooh cried. Christopher Robin took Pooh's present from its hiding place and headed toward Rabbit's house. "Come on, Pooh," he called.
"Cake and presents and balloons. It's time, it's time, it's time,"
sang Pooh as they walked along together. Pooh was the first one to reach the door. Rabbit swung it open, shouted, "Happy birthday!" Inside, Pooh saw his beautiful cake with pink roses, honey pots wrapped in festive paper, lots of colourful balloons, and streamers. "Happy birthday, Pooh!" his friends all shouted. Everyone was there. Eeyore, Rabbit, Kinga, Owl, Tigger, and Piglet.
"Oh," cried Pooh, "party time! It's my favorite time ever."
Then Pooh hugged his two friends, Piglet and Christopher Robin.
"And thanks to you too," he whispered. "Waiting was a lot of fun too."
Roo's new babysitter. "Roo, dear, your babysitter will be here soon," Kinga said. "I don't want to be babysitted," Roo said. "Now, Roo, Mama's just going out for a little shopping and dinner with Aunt Sadie," said Kinga. "You'll have fun with Pooh." "But I want to go shopping with you," Roo cried. "I'm really good at shopping. I can help." "Yes, dear, I know," Kinga said. She was busy buttoning her coat and looking for her purse. Roo found a large bag and began filling it with things. "Look at me, I'm shopping," he cried. "I'd be such a big help." "Another time, dear," Kinga said. "What other time?" Roo asked. "Well, not this time," said Kinga. "Oh, look, here comes Pooh now." "Hello, Pooh," said Roo. "Look, I'm shopping." "Now, Pooh, don't let Pooh get into any mischief while I'm gone."
"Oh, I won't let him get into anything," said Pooh cheerfully.
"Goodbye."
"Goodbye."
Roo and Pooh waved as they watched Kinga hop down the path and over the bridge. When she was out of sight, Roo's face dropped. Pooh gave Roo a hug as they walked back inside. Then Pooh put Roo in his high chair.
"What you need to cheer you up is a nice snack,"
Pooh said.
"How about some honey?"
"I like shopping," Roo squeaked. "I don't want a snack."
He doesn't want to eat? Now what do I do?
Pooh said. "You don't know how to babysit?" Roo asked.
Of course I do, said Pooh. All except the actual babysitting part.
"I'm good at babysitting," said Roo, perking up. "I'll tell you how. The first thing a babysitter does is play store," said Roo. He showed Pooh how to set up the cash register and where to put all the toys and cans and bags. When they were finished playing, Pooh sat down to rest. "The next thing a babysitter does is climb," Roo cried. "Let's see who can climb higher, you or me." Pooh was beginning to think that there was not much sitting involved in babysitting. He sighed.
Okay, let's find a good tree to climb.
The old apple tree in Roo's backyard was perfect. Roo jumped up, but he couldn't even reach the lowest branch. "Babysitters always give a boost," he said.
I see,
Pooh replied. Roo hopped from branch to branch. Pooh climbed up behind him. Said Roo. Look at those apples. Babysitters always pick apples for dinner. Pooh scrambled up to the highest branch. He picked 4 bright red apples, and tucked them under his arm. Then he inched his way back down. Wow, Pooh! Cried Roo. You can climb with one arm.
Oops, I'm just that sort of babysitter,
Pooh shouted as he fell onto Roo's branch. Together they sat side by side, swinging their feet and eating their sweet apples. This is the best dinner ever, Roo said happily.
What do babysitters do after dinner?
Pooh asked. They give baths with lots of bubbles, Roo said. Inside, Roo showed Pooh how babysitters pour a whole bottle of bubble solution into the bath water.
That seems like a lot,
Pooh said. Just right, Roo said. Roo took off his little shirt and hopped in. He disappeared under the bubbles.
Where's Roo?
Pooh asked. He blew the bubbles, but he couldn't see Roo anywhere. Pooh frantically swished his hands through the bubbles. Oh, Roo is nowhere to be found. Look at me, jumping, squeaked a little voice. Pooh could hear Roo.
There you are,
Pooh cried as he walked into Roo's bedroom, actually. Roo was all bubbly and wet. He jumped up and down on his bed. Pooh chased the little kangaroo with a towel. When he finally caught him, Pooh dried him off.
It's time you take your strengthening medicine,
said Pooh sternly. I don't want to, said Roo. He folded his arms across his chest and stuck out his chin.
Oh,
Pooh sighed as he slumped back into his chair.
Why don't you give me a spoonful? I'm not feeling well. I think I could use it.
Now, Pooh dear, here's your medicine, Ruth said in a grown-up voice. He fed Pooh a spoonful of medicine.
Much better,
Pooh sighed.
Thank you, Roo. You're a good babysitter.
I'm babysitting, Roo sang happily. Just then, Kanga opened the door. She saw Roo and Pooh snuggled together in the chair. Mama, look at me! Roo shouted. I'm babysitting Pooh. Of course you are, dear, Kanga said with a smile. The sleepover.
Comfortable, Piglet?
Pooh asked. He was tucking his friend into a dresser drawer that had been made into a bed, just the right size for Piglet. Oh, yes, Pooh, Thank you ever so much, Piglet replied. The two friends were having a best friends sleepover, which, as far as they could tell, had to involve sleeping over something. I suppose you could say that I'm sleeping over the other dresser drawer, said Piglet. Pooh nodded. He looked around his house.
Now, I wonder what I should sleep over.
Piglet looked around too. But there seemed to be just one place that was well suited for Pooh, his own bed. So in the end, that's what Pooh decided to sleep over.
Well, good night, Piglet,
said Pooh. He blew out his candle and climbed into bed. Good night, Pooh Bear, Piglet replied. Piglet lay in the darkness of Pooh's room, comfortable in his drawer. What a wonderful best friend's sleepover it has been so far, he thought. First, Piglet and Pooh had enjoyed a before-bedtime snack. Next, they had put on their pajamas. Then they made up a bedtime story together. Of course, it was always fun spending time with Pooh, although there was something different about being at Pooh's house at bedtime that was so different from being at Piglet's own house at bedtime. As he lay in the dresser drawer with his eyes wide open, it occurred to Piglet that the darkness at Pooh's house was much, much darker than it was at his own house. So Piglet rolled over and pulled up the covers. Then he closed his eyes tight and tried to fall asleep, but nothing happened. Piglet opened his eyes and peeked out into the darkness. That's when he noticed that it was very, very quiet in Pooh's room, much quieter than the quiet in Piglet's own room at night. In particular, the quiet that was coming from the direction of Pooh's bed, where Piglet's best friend was fast asleep, while Piglet lay wide awake. That was the quietest of all. Pooh, Piglet whispered. Pooh Bear, he called out a little louder this time. He didn't want to wake up Pooh. Then Piglet wondered if perhaps Pooh was awake, but had just not heard him. Still, there was no answer. Piglet tried again to get back to sleep. Then he heard a soft, low rumbling. It was curiously similar to the sound of a sleeping bear snoring. As Piglet listened, the sound grew louder and louder. And then softer. Then louder and louder. Over and over again. Was it the sound of an approaching heffalump? Piglet wondered. The sound continued. Pooh! Oh, dear! Piglet shouted, jumping out of the drawer and running to Pooh's bedside. He shook Pooh as he shouted, "Wake up! Wake up! Oh, please! Oh, Pooh!"
said Pooh drowsily, sitting up. He climbed out of bed and walked over to light the candle. When it was lit, he found Piglet hiding under the covers in Pooh's bed. "Why, Piglet," said Pooh, "what's the matter?"
Piglet was found trembling so much it was hard to get the words out. "It's that horrible noise, Pooh," he stammered. Piglet listened for the noise so he could point it out. Then he realized he couldn't hear it. "That's funny," said Piglet as he peeked out from under the covers. "The noise stopped as soon as you woke up, Pooh."
Said Pooh. He shrugged. Then he yawned. "I guess that means we can go back to sleep."
Piglet wasn't so sure. He didn't want to hurt Pooh's feelings, but he didn't think he could fall asleep in Pooh's room. "Pooh Bear," said Piglet timidly, "I don't mean to be a bad best friend, but do you think we might, well, have the rest of our best friends sleep over some other night? I'm just not used to sleeping anywhere but my own house." Pooh sat down on the bed and put his arm around Piglet.
"I understand, Piglet," he said. "We can have the rest of our best friends sleep over whenever you like."
Pooh helped Piglet gather his things, including his very own pillow. Then, hand in hand, Pooh and Piglet began to walk through the 100-acre wood. It was a short stroll through the forest to Piglet's house. The stars were twinkling in the night sky when the two best friends arrived.
"Here you are, Piglet,"
Pooh said as they entered.
"Home, sweet home."
Piglet was very glad to be at his own house. "Oh, thank you, Pooh," he said. "Thank you so much for understanding and for walking me back. I suppose you'll need to get home now for bed." Pooh considered the question.
"That does sound like the thing to do," he said. "But first I must sit down for a little rest."
Pooh noticed a comfortable-looking chair.
"Just for a few minutes, of course."
While Piglet put away his things, Pooh sat down in the chair. It was even more comfortable than it looked. Pooh put up his feet. Then he decided to rest his eyes. Just for a moment. By the time Piglet came back, Pooh was fast asleep. He was even making a soft, low, rumbling sound. But in the comfort of his own house, it did not strike Piglet as anything other than the sound of one bear snoring. Piglet covered his best friend with a small blanket and slipped a pillow under his bed.
"Sweet dreams, Pooh Bear,"
he whispered. Then Piglet climbed into his own bed and drifted off to sleep. It seemed that he and Pooh were having their best friend's sleepover after all. This is only 3 bedtime stories for you little children out there, or big children, whichever you have at your home, by Katie, the narrator. Have a wonderful day. Sweet dreams, my kittens.